Guys, welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity, and up you. I'm your host, Isaiah. It's June, it's summertime, and I don't know about you, but as I've gotten older, summer, I still have those little kid moments where, you know, you get the collective excitement about summer. It just feels different in the air. But I also realize the years go by so much quicker. It's like as adults, we have so many more things that we have to worry about. Relationships are very different. They're a little bit more delicate, more fleeting. In comparison, as a kid, is like, hey, what was my summer going to be filled with? Or was it boring? Was I just waiting to see my friends again? Like, what was the case? So there is definitely an interesting perspective that I have now as I get older and my responsibilities are more present and demanding in terms of being a kid. But also, one of the things I've always understood is that, when it comes to this concept of love, I hear it talked about a lot, and it's always romantic, right? Love in itself is always this romantic transaction, or unconditional love between a parent, usually a mother and their kid. And I think for me, I learned the deepest and truest and most purest form of love in friendship. And the reason I say that and the reason I'm most grateful is because friendship is the one entity in society, especially in Western culture, that's not really prioritized. It's like virtual signaling when we talk about friendship, right? We talk about how great it is to have a friend in your tough times, how great it is to have a friend to celebrate with. But then when you look at how society moves, everybody is too busy to be a friend, but everybody is crying about not having them, right? And what that starts to sound like is we want what we are not willing to be. We're not willing to be inconvenienced the way we expect other friends to be. We're not willing to show up the way we think other people should. We are not willing to be consistent. We are not willing to be a container for other people in the same way that we desire to have, right? In the same ways we talk about and glorify. And that is information, right? The reason why I say I learned love and friendship is because, society doesn't tell us to really invest in our friendships. Society will say, oh yeah, you're lucky if you have a friend. There's no greater feeling than a true friend. But society doesn't tell you, hey, be one. It just says, hey, this is a great accessory to have through life. And most people don't even know how to keep friends, right? We use friendship as a meter marker sometimes. Like, we'll be like, oh yeah, me and this person have been friends for 30 years. But how deeply do you know each other, right? If you were to look at the health of the relationship versus the history of it, would they look the same? Would it show years of devotion and commitment and discipline and growth with one another? Or would it show this distant idea of a person that you used to know, and the only thing that you guys really can hold on to presently is the fact that you've known each other for this long. We know of each other for this long. That's why catch-up culture doesn't really work, right? We try to binge watch our friends. We say, yeah, we can go 6 months to a year without speaking to each other and just catch up like nothing happened. You are not going to be a part of somebody's life if the only time you catch up is annually, and it's a 3-hour thing. There's so much going on in other people's lives. And sometimes we think that our life is the only one that has some importance, that has some movement, and truth be told, it's not. And that's obvious, right? And the way I learned love in terms of friendship doesn't mean that I was always on the receptive end of friends, which even more so let me understand, hey, how do people value friendship? Despite the definition of what friendship is, mutuality, how do other people define it, right? Are they placeholders for, a job until they get a job or until they find that perfect romantic partner, right? And then they, kick their friends to the curb. And then when they break up with that partner potentially, or they have a wedding, or now they have a baby shower, do they still expect those same friends to be there that they've abandoned? And see, that's the thing with society. It hasn't really told people that, hey, you can choose whatever life you want, but there are consequences. And we can't be passive with people. I think another thing is when it comes to chemistry, we only talk about chemistry in the sense of like, oh, attraction, right? Romance. But we affect people. We affect each other, right? If you think about it on a molecular level, right? Think about if somebody shows up and they treat you well and they care about you and they show that over an extended period of time. For one, your mindset changes in terms of how you seek to be treated, right? Because I have somebody here who's showing me, right? You feel different. You start to think different about yourself, but also you may likely treat other people different because you are inspired by them. But your whole nervous system is affected by how a person treats you. And the same thing can be said for the contrary. If somebody is inconsistent, when you are seeking care, when you want to be supported, when you have good news and you feel like you got to hide it from this person, you feel like this person never seems to be happy for you, you feel like they kind of leave you on red or they ice you out more often than not, your mind is constantly running. Your body is tense. Every time you talk to them, you got to, hey, I don't know if we're cool or where I stand. So let me just, play it cool for now, right? We really do affect each other. And as a guy, especially, the reason why I talk about friendship so hard is because we don't really, I hear the way guys talk about friendship sometimes, and it sounds very, I'll use basic. It sounds very basic, very, very removed of all the necessary components that makes a genuine friendship. And guys do friendship differently than women do. Everybody wants to matter. That's the thing. Everybody needs somebody to talk to. Everybody wants to feel like they belong. Everybody wants to feel supported. Everybody wants to feel loved. Everybody wants to feel cared for. And not only when it comes to sex, okay? And if we were a little bit more honest about that, our relationships would probably be a little bit more structured and stronger and healthier, right? Statistics would probably look a little bit different. Men would be able to sustain healthy male bonds later in life. I saw this video recently where there's this guy, he's a fitness guy, and he was saying, man, all I've ever wanted was to be somebody else's best friend, right? That's all I ever wanted. I wanted to feel like the person that I cared about, that I held as a best friend, also saw me as theirs. Because that's the truth too. Sometimes who you see as a best friend may not see you as theirs. And that can be soul crushing. And what that also reminded me is that men also experience the fear of rejection and abandonment from one another. We don't always talk about it, but it's definitely there, okay? So I really try to do away with this whole biology that, yeah, men are wired different, so friendship looks different. No, not necessarily. We want to bond. We want to have that there. A lot of times we feel like we can't, or we're afraid to, right? Vulnerability makes us think that that's a bad thing, and it's like, no, okay? We need community, we need connection, and we need a village. And being a guy does not mean that you're immune to that. All right? So for me, it's like throughout my life, I've learned the importance of loyalty. I've learned betrayal, right? I've learned the difference in value system, how people see friendship and how they don't. And it's all been beautiful. The reason why is because it's always brought me back to myself. How do I genuinely value my friends? Okay, and how am I valued in those spaces? Is it congruent or is it not? And truth be told, in life, you will probably have, by definition, maybe a handful of very good friends. Everybody else might be friendly, an acquaintance is not an insult, especially if that's all people want to be in your life, right? Some people want the title of friend without the discipline that comes with it. Just because the more friendly I am, the more access I have to who you are. And we do treat friendship like a tool in our lives. We treat people like resources, first responders. And then when it comes time for us to show up, well, I'm protecting my peace. No is a complete sentence. If I don't want to be inconvenienced, I don't have to. If I don't want to pick up my phone, I don't have to, right? Everybody's busy. I'm an adult. Yeah, well, it seems like you're treating your friendships like you're a child. Like there are these toys that you just throw around, and when you don't get your way, you pout. And if you can't have an adult conversation with your friends, then how much of an adult are you? right? We pick and choose when we want to be seen as grown. And when it comes time to have actually grown up friendships, we back out. Oh, we just grew apart. Or yeah, seasons change. Or yeah, we just got busy. But the reality of that is sometimes that, hey, I didn't value them as much, right? They were not a priority. I don't have the communication skills or the emotional intelligence or maturity to actually speak on things. So I run, I avoid, I dismiss, I deflect, I project. And I let time pass. Okay? Like my bro said, friendship is an endurance sport. And most people are not fit for it. And it shows. Like I said, for me, that's where I learned love. And I'm so glad I learned it in that space because, again, society tells you that friendship isn't important. So what better way to learn the true essence of care than in a space where it's not really held as a priority? There's no pressure, right? All there is presence and two people choosing to obligate themselves to another person and say, hey, you matter to me. And I'm going to make sure you know it, right? And when it comes to romantic partnerships, we need to understand is that we place those people there. And sometimes we want people to be better than what they actually are. And that's why they get that ranking in our lives. Doesn't mean that they treat us better. Sometimes we dismiss the people who take care of us for this relationship. And is that supposed to happen? Absolutely not, right? So for me, I'm really grateful that life has taught me the importance of friendship. And life has also reminded me that, hey, you get to choose how you live your life, not what society tells you is important, right? We want our friends to invest in us financially. Again, if we get married, we want our friends to show up to that wedding, buy a plane ticket, right? Buy an outfit, okay? RSVP at a hotel. That's investment. If we have a baby, we expect our friends to send us gifts, right? Show up to the party. And even as our kids grow, yep, show up. But when it comes to friends, especially if people are single, we think that we shouldn't devote as much effort to them because they don't have anything going on. And that's not true, and it's also not fair. And if you think that you are the only person in the world and everybody else revolves around you, your world will get very lonely. And fellas, really take care of your bros. Sometimes it requires somebody showing up scared to build a deeper bond. But the more willing you are to show up brave, the longer your bonds will last. And the more you guys will take care of each other, the more you'll know how to take care of one another. All right? This isn't a gender thing. This is a growth thing. So, if you haven't checked on your friends in a while, do so. And don't let it be a one-time thing because, hey, no relationship survives on neglect. And if you think that you can go so much time and still know a person, think again. Because in that 3 hours of what they share, they're probably only sharing the highlights. So, don't just check on your friends. Cherish your friends and make sure you're cherished too. Because you will have more opportunities to be a friend in life than you will somebody's romantic partner. And the truth of how you treat your friends will always reveal itself. We can't escape ourselves, even if we avoid other people and we call it growth. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Take flight.